we did feel a stigma even before he died, because I remember in Sweden, most of our friends had stopped inviting us home, and these were people he knew from his music days.
Mm-hmm.
People stopped calling, they stopped coming around. They would not want us to play with their children. So we felt it even before he died. After he died, it was really from, strangers. We coped the best way we could. I mean, what could we do about it? You couldn't really bury your head in the sand. You were who you were. The way I resolved to kind of shut myself off through it all was when I left Uganda, because in those schools when we were there, you had to use the name Lutaya, and obviously during those days they would know who you were. But 5 years later, when we left Uganda to come back to Sweden, I didn't really introduce myself using my last name to people who didn't know me. Because then if you said, what? Oh, my name is Tejo Lutaya, they would say, oh, you're the daughter of... And so I stopped using the name and sort of distanced myself from the whole memory of it all, just to heal.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say it healed me, but it sort of made me forget, basically.
And when you didn't use your surname, and as you say, you sort of distanced yourself from the family name and all of the prejudice that came with it, did that change anything about the way you saw your father at the time? I mean, just because you were exposed to so much prejudice.
I was more angry with him. I felt anger towards him during that time, solely because he had exposed us to this. And the most thing I remember being angry about was for him to have left us so early.
Mm-hmm.
I was not even thinking about the disease or anything. I was just angry that he had left us, basically. Left us in this world. It took me about 10 years to sort of come to terms with his death and to mourn and to understand that this is not about me, really. It's bigger than me.
You say it took you 10 years. What helped you come to that realization?
So I went to the US to attempt to do my undergrad. So while doing some course on film or something, I had to order for a documentary, and while I was looking through a New York library online, I came across the title Born in Africa, and then I read the name. I said, oh wow.
So it was a documentary about your father?
Yes, that documentary he made the last year of his life. Because I never watched that film he had made. I refused to watch it. I remember they put it on right after he had died, because it had just come out then. I couldn't watch it, so I left the room. So 10 years later, I am sitting, watching this thing, and it reopened the box, the pain. But at this time, I was older and I was more mature, and I could really understand the journey of this man, what he had been fighting for, and I felt really, really, really ashamed of myself for having gone there moping about or thinking about him missing my birthday and all these things. And I thought, wow, I'm sorry. I said to him, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm going to do better.
Was it the first time, do you think, that you recognized his bravery?
I'd have to say yes. This was it. This is when the light switched on for me, and I thought, wow, what a human being. Selfless. What a selfless human being. And I'm thinking, if I was in his shoes, I would not have put myself out there.
So as your perception of your father changed, as you suddenly really realized all of the things that he'd done and how much of a trailblazer he was, how did your perceptions of yourself begin to change as well as the daughter of Philly Lutaya?
Well, first of all, I had to overcome the guilt I felt, because I then realized I could have done much more sooner and earlier. And there was still a lot to do because the visuals of people dying like Philly and all his contemporaries had disappeared. And this new generation, 10, 20 years later, had forgotten about HIV/AIDS because of the ARVs. So I thought something still needs to be done. So I did go and start a charity, because I had lived a life of being an orphan. So I thought, why can't I help guide some young people out there and show them that Philly Entire still cares. That's what I named the organization.
As you were building that charity, as you were doing advocacy work, was that one of the first times in your life where you felt proud to call yourself the daughter of Philly Lutaya?
Yes, he gave me, I was a timid person before when he took us out on his shows and all these things, but he gave me a boldness that I had not had before. I was able to stand in front of crowds and talk and speak on his behalf, and I really felt proud of him, leaning on his boldness, basically. That's what I do every day. I lean on his boldness because I could never have myself mustered the energy to do what he did.
I love that idea of leaning on his boldness. Can you still feel it, do you think, that boldness that your father had?
Oh, yes. Whenever I come across anything challenging, I say to myself, come on now. This is nothing compared to what the big man did. So please, you have to be as brave as your father once was.
And your father's legacy, doesn't just relate to all of the incredible work that he did around HIV and AIDS awareness, but also his music is still so popular. We have a producer who works on Outlook called Eric, who was talking about how Christmas time, everybody still plays your father's music. That is the sound in so many places that people think of Christmas in Uganda, they think of your father's music. What is it like for you when you hear one of those Christmas records?
Rather than make me sad as it did before, now it makes me happy. Because really what he wanted to do was people to listen to his songs. So I'm happy, and whenever Christmas comes about, I get my album out and I put it on for my kids to listen to. And I tell them, listen, that's your grandpapa singing. And they just laugh and say, oh, mommy. But it's such a joy to hear the music for what it was meant for and not to feel sad. So yes, Christmas is one of those happier times when I'm happy to listen to his songs.
Speaking to me about her father, the singer Philly Lutaya. Any comments, you can reach us on outlook@bbc.com. Well, that is all we have.